Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Anderson, and as well as property, I also look after procurement and logistics for Whitbread. Today, I'm focusing on property for this presentation. Simon talked about how we identify opportunities in each marketplace for new growth for Premier Inn. I want to now briefly cover how we find and buy new property development sites for Premier Inn, the methods that we use to build our hotels, and also some recent innovation in our property development approaches. Here you can see at the top of the slide how the network plan that Simon described is used to completely focus our new site sourcing. This way we concentrate our resources internally on locations that we know are likely to work, which minimises abortive work and costs on sites that are unlikely to be viable, and also allows us to deal efficiently with opportunities that we really want. We have a strong focus on returns, as covered earlier, and all new sites are reviewed through our process. And at the bottom of the slide here in the fourth block, they're approved at the Property Investment Board ultimately. We also assess performance of our investments formally every quarter at the Property Board, and this drives continual improvement in our commercial forecasting for other future new sites and feeds back into the review of the network plan, which we do back at the top of the cycle. We have an in-house team of 9 Whitbread property acquisition managers, and rather than working with just a few preferred developers, we prefer a wider network approach. This gives us the best chance of discovering new hotel opportunities in each of our target locations across the UK. We're also continually talking to the property development and investment markets about our requirements and the benefits to them of opening a Premier Inn. These are recent examples from our property communications campaigns that highlight our aggressive development plans. We probably review around 10 sites every year for every one that we ultimately end up buying. So we're looking at hundreds of sites every year through the investment process. We now have a range of formats with which to access all of our target locations. Joint sites continue to give us an advantage over our rivals in securing sites on the edge of town. They're typically around 2 acres in size to accommodate both the Premier Inn and the Whitbread restaurant and car parking for both operations, and they're usually freehold investments for us. Solus hotels in city centres and at the airports, generally bigger hotels, and we're acquiring a balance of freehold and leasehold investments in these locations. Finally, Hub, which you'll see and hear more about later, gives us access to locations in city centres which would otherwise not necessarily work for Premier Inn, as we're able to leverage here the smaller room size and the more efficient P&L to make the sites work. We've used the weaker commercial property markets in the last few years to accelerate the capture of our future development pipeline. After initially slowing down our new site commitments between 2009 and 2011, we've now picked up the pace again. And in each of the last 2 years, we've added 5,000 more rooms to our committed pipeline, either buying the land or signing a contract to lease a completed building. As well as doing more office conversions to Premier Inns, we've also converted student accommodation and residential consents to hotels, and we've formed partnerships with retailers such as Sainsbury's, Waitrose and Tesco's for joint developments. We continue to have success in London, finding great sites that meet our target locations in this key market for us. Even though the residential and the office markets are strengthening in the capital, we're still able to secure key sites by leveraging our financial strength and also the security of Whitbread as a tenant in leasehold schemes. Our preference remains to acquire freehold sites and to project manage the construction of the hotels ourselves. However, if an owner is looking for a tenant and wants to retain ownership for themselves, then the Whitbread covenant is a compelling proposition for them in the current market. Our typical 25-year lease with an index-linked rent review pattern is attractive to developers and is commanding keen yields at the moment of around 5.25% for completed developments. Currently, over 70% of the committed pipeline is short leasehold, and if it remains like this, then our freehold ownership overall will drop to around 62% of the portfolio over the next few years. Another way that we maximise the number of sites that we can progress with is by using different procurement methods for our construction. As well as managing the building of some hotels ourselves using our in-house project managers to oversee construction, we can also take a full turnkey leased building from a developer. The fact that we manage the construction ourselves for a large proportion of our programme gives us a great insight into the lowest build cost that can be achieved and makes sure we can negotiate hard with the developers on their own schemes. As a result, we're still seeing construction costs remain broadly flat and therefore well below the peaks of 2007 and 2008 because of the focus we're putting into procurement and on tendering all the contracts. We're now a significant property developer in the UK in our own right. We're building over 1.5 million square feet of new property space in the UK in each of the next 5 years. And this scale of development is enabling us to keep costs down to ensure that we maintain returns. In addition to building new hotels, extensions to existing Premier Inns also give us around 500 new rooms a year. These are low-risk investments for us and have consistently produced strong returns. Where possible, we now build our new hotels with a future extension in mind. So, for example, we'll make the services, the electrics and the plumbing, away from the end wall of the building where we're going to put the extension on to make it cheaper in due course. Over the past few years, we've also introduced significant changes to specifications in order to make a more sustainable method of construction. This also helps us to meet increasingly stringent planning requirements and has the added benefit of lower operating costs once the hotel is open and running. Thank you, and I think we're now going to have our first question and answer session, Andy.